5th grade ELA, text set 8, Grit and Perseverance. This above all to thine own self be true. This is a quote from the famous playwright William Shakespeare. What do you think would be some of your biggest obstacles if you wanted to be a great Shakespearean actor? Ira's Shakespeare dream is about Ira Albridge, a man whose dream was to become a great actor. However, he was born at a time when African American actors were limited in the roles they could play. Let's read to see how he overcame that obstacle to achieve success. Ira could not keep still as he waited in the balcony of the Park Theater, but once the magnificent velvet curtains opened, Ira sat spellbound as Shakespeare Hamlet was brought to life. Ira's mouthed the words along with the actors. This above all, to thine own self be true. After the final curtain came down, Ira hurried out of the theater. If he got home too late, Pa would know where he had been. Besides, Ira had to prepare for his own performance in class. Tomorrow's my big day, he said to himself. So, of all the famous quotations from Shakespeare, the author chose to begin the book with this one. This above all, to thine own self be true. Let's keep that in mind through the story. The next morning, Ira barreled his way through crowded New York City streets to the African Free School. When he arrived, he stood outside the classroom to catch his breath. Then he made his grand entrance. Ah, here he is, Ira's teacher, Mr. Andrews announced to two men who were standing at the back of the room. Students and honored guests, Ira Aldridge will now perform a scene from Hamlet, a play, as you all know, by the great William Shakespeare. Ira paced back and forth, rubbing his chin and motioning with his arms as he spoke the words of Hamlet, the troubled young Danish prince. To be or not to be, that is the question. Bravo! Cheered his classmates and the visitors after Ira ended the scene with a bow. Such talent, said one of the visitors. For one so young, you have a great voice, added the other, and your gestures perfectly match the words. After school, Ira was still beaming with pride as he helped Mr. Andrews clean the classroom. Suddenly, Ira stopped sweeping. I want to perform Shakespeare at the Park Theater, he exclaimed. The Park? Mr. Andrews raised his eyebrows. Ira, you know only white actors perform there. Your dream too big for a colored boy. But the visitors said I have talent. My color did not matter to them. They are from England, where things are different, explained Mr. Andrews. Why not become a teacher here? You can use your great talent to inspire the younger students. I will inspire them by becoming a Shakespearean actor, Ira declared, and today I will tell Pa about my dream. Alright, what does this interaction with Mr. Andrews at school demonstrate about Ira's personality? Ira's father was a church minister who also sold items made of straw. Ira found Pa on Mulberry Street and sat with him in his wagon. Shakespeare, Pa exclaimed. When Ira told him of his dream, how can you make a living playing, acting, and pretending? Your brother Joshua couldn't do it. What makes you think you can? Before Ira could answer, Pa began calling out to passerby in his melodramatic voice. Straw man, get your baskets, hats, and mats. Ira sat patiently while Pa sold his wires. On the way home, Pa said, Ira, I want you to follow in my footsteps and become a minister. Use your God-given talent to preach about right and wrong, and stay away from that playhouse. What would your mother say about such foolishness? If Mama was alive, thought Ira, she wouldn't call my dream foolish. Against Paul's wishes, Ira continued to the theater. He even discovered a new playhouse, the African Grove. It was an all-black theater in New York City. At the Park, Ira was forced to watch plays from the balcony, but at the Grove he could sit in any seat in the theater to watch the lively acts and musical numbers. Sometimes the Grove even staged plays by Shakespeare. Ira was fascinated by the wigs, makeup, and colorful costumes worn by the actors. He longed to be a part of this magical world of the theater. Why couldn't Paul understand, Ira thought. What has Ira learned about himself at such a young age? One day, feeling hopeless, Ira went to the waterfront to visit Joshua. Ira found him at work whitewashing a boat. As they talked, Ira watched ships depart for far-off places such as England, the land of Shakespeare. "You have more talent than I had," Joshua said, following his brother's gaze. "If any one of our people could become a successful actor, could be you." Just then, the captain of a nearby cargo ship walked up. He told the brothers that he was leaving for South Carolina and needed a cabin boy to do chores on the trip. Ira looked at Joshua. "Go, you need an adventure," Joshua said. "But be careful. Things are different down south." "I will," Ira promised. "Tell Pa I'll be back soon." So Joshua warns Ira. What does he do? Why does he do that? I wonder if Ira realizes what might happen to him in South Carolina. Ira enjoyed the voyage, but when the ship reached the port of Charleston, South Carolina, he was reminded of Joshua's warning. A man came aboard and, seeing Ira at work, offered to buy him for $500. At first, Ira was angry at the idea of being sold like a basket or a straw hat. Then he became fearful. Would the captain turn down so much money? Ira wondered. He was relieved to hear the captain tell the slave trader, "This young man is not for sale." Although Ira had been spared, he watched helplessly as other people were sold into slavery. He would never forget seeing men, women, and children in the auction block. He felt the agony of family members when they were sold off one by one and taken away by different owners. Ira was happy to return to New York City 3 weeks later. Facing Paul's anger would be easy after what he'd been seen down south. After scolding Ira for running away, Paul said, "You will go to ministry school as soon as you are old enough." So imagine how Ira is feeling. What are some feelings you think he is having, and how is he experiencing South Carolina affecting him? But Ira was determined to follow his dream. At the African-American grove in the park, people took notice of the stage-struck young man. Actors often sent Ira on errands in exchange for tickets to plays. Some of the stagehands taught him set building and costume making. They all encouraged Ira to become an actor and cheered him on as he auditioned for a small role at the African Grove. When he was not watching plays from the balcony of the park, Ira was rehearsing or acting at the African Grove. He was chosen to play the lead in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Paul soon discovered that Ira had stopped going to school and immediately enrolled him in a ministry college. Now Ira was faced with a difficult question. Should he obey his father or follow his own path? The answer came from two actors who had befriended Ira, the brothers James and Henry Wallach. They were preparing to return to their native country, England. "You might find success as a Shakespeare actor in London," Henry Wallach said, "and we could use some help on the voyage. Would you like to come along as our valet?" "Yes, sir," Ira exclaimed. "I have experience working on a ship." A line from Romeo and Juliet came to mind as Ira tearfully said goodbye to Joshua. "Parting is such sweet sorrow." So notice how far Ira has traveled on the path to follow his dream. What is the author saying about why Ira might have been particularly successful in playing the role? Oh, I haven't gotten to that yet. In 1824, at the age of 17, Ira set sail to England. He looked out at the ocean before him and thought about the letter he had left for Paul. "I must follow my own dream. I hope to make you proud of me some day." Ira arrived in England 2 months later. He could not contain his joy as he skipped along London's cobblestone streets. "I am following in Shakespeare's footsteps." With help from the Wallach brothers, Ira found work running errands at a few small theaters. He was also hired to be an understudy. As an understudy, he had to be ready to take the part of any actor who, for some reason, could not perform. Finally, after waiting many months, Ira got his chance. He was asked to replace an actor who had become ill. This marked the beginning of Ira's acting career in England. Many theater-goers praised Ira's acting. Others were not so kind. "He needs more training," said some critics. "He should not play roles intended for white actors," insisted others. Ira could see that even in England his path to success would not be easy, but he was not discouraged. He worked hard, studied acting, and learned everything he could about the theater business. With each performance, Ira's acting improved. He became known for his ability to play a variety of roles. For The Merchant of Venice, Ira put on a wig and makeup to portray Shylock, or a character disliked because he was Jewish. As Shylock, Ira remembered the plight of his own people back home when he asked, "If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh?" Even as Ira's dreams were coming true, he never forgot about his people back home and the nightmare of slavery. Sometimes at the close of a performance, Ira came out of a character and sat on the edge of the stage. He preached to the audience about the injustice of slavery. He told them that, although he was born free, he had once come close to being sold into slavery. Audiences were moved as Ira recounted from them the cruelties he had witnessed. "I will not be satisfied," Ira said, "until all of my people are free." He asked audience members to join him in sending money to help the abolitionists in the United States who were fighting to free all those who were enslaved. Ira's fame and fortune grew as he traveled beyond England. Wherever he went, he worked with local actors and showed them how to make costumes and sets. By the 1840s, Ira was one of the most celebrated Shakespearean actors in Europe. His first, most famous role was the lead character in Othello. The dark-skinned, tragic hero was commonly played by a white actor wearing black makeup. Ira did not need this makeup, and the emotions he expressed as Othello were as real as the color of his skin. Like Othello, Ira knew despair. He had seen it in the eyes of enslaved people, and like Othello, Ira knew sadness and regret. He had felt both when he received news of Paul's death. After many years of portraying Othello, Ira became the character in the minds of his admirers. They sat spellbound at his performances, and Ira seemed to speak directly to each person in the audience in the tragedy final scene. "When you shall these unlucky deeds relate, speak of me as I am, nothing extenuate. Then must you speak of one that I love, not wisely, but too well." One night, at London's famous theatre, Royal Haymarket, Ira received a standing ovation after another stirring performance of Othello. As he bowed before the adoring crowd, Ira realized that by following his dream, he had also become what Paul and Mr. Andrews had wanted him to be. He was an actor, but he was also a teacher and a preacher. Ira smiled and took a final bow as the curtain closed.